How did poultry, usually the smallest livestock on most farms, become the center of a nationwide farmer movement? For most people, chicken is just chicken, cheap, convenient, and everywhere. But for a handful of farmers, it became the start of something much bigger. I sat down with the farmers at the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association conference, some who were there in the very beginning and others who carry it forward to this day. To understand how it all happened, we're covering why pasture changes more than just how chickens are raised, the struggles, failures, and breakthroughs of farmers who had no one to turn to, what happened when they finally found each other, and how that small beginning continues to shape farmers across the country today. This is a story about how pastured poultry became a movement. Before we get into how APPPA started, you need to understand what these farmers were actually trying to do and why it was so much harder than anyone expected. Because the idea at the center of this movement isn't complicated. In fact, movement is the whole point. Move your birds.
Pasture matters because anything that involves the health of the animal and ultimately the health of the human can be solved by pasture and movement. So the issues that come out of confinement spaces for all livestock are solved by movement and pasture.
One of the tenets, obviously, of the American Pastured Poultry Producers is pasture, and with having birds on pasture, movement and mobility is kind of inherently applied. So we're moving their shade, we're moving their water, and we're moving their feed on a regular rotational basis. That motivates that bird to move away from, any spilled feed, any fecal material, but also encourages them to have a more even manure application on the ground.
For these farmers, movement isn't just the management technique. It turns out to be their entire philosophy. And once you see that, it changes how you think about every other problem in farming.
But move your birds to a new pasture, move your birds to a new spot. Get them access, don't denude that field. Denuding is completely stripping it of the roots and the vegetative cover.
That daily movement is the whole foundation. It's not just better for the birds, it's the difference between land that degrades under animals and land that heals because of them. And we're seeing the success of this in real time. Pasture poultry is growing faster than almost any corner of regenerative farming right now. The question is, why?
The chicken is the gateway drug for most people getting involved in agriculture. During the pandemic, over 3 million homes added poultry to their families. All of those things get stacked on top of each other.
It is absolutely the gateway. Farming is a very capital-intensive business. That's true with poultry, but it's less true. It takes less land, less equipment. So it's a really good way for people who are getting into the business to get into the business. And the money turns much quicker. The gestation period of a cow is 283 days, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's how long it takes. Poultry is so much quicker, and then I think it's just a wonderful way to start.
So chickens aren't just small livestock. They're often the entry point into farming, into local food, into building something much bigger than an enterprise.
I think pastured poultry has the opportunity to create a lot of food security, realizing that the egg is the easiest thing to completely wean yourself away from commercial supermarket space. Not only is that something that creates a lot of freeing and empowering feelings, it also creates a lot of health benefits for the people. It creates a lot of spin-off things. Think of all the food scraps that don't go down the garbage disposal or out into the trash that can go to chickens and become chicken feed. Look at the impact that would have. Having layers in a family farm, or not a family farm, but just in a family space, has a huge ripple effect in the amount of grain that we need. It could totally replace the egg industry in America, or in the world really. And not everybody has to have a chickens. Realize that 6 to 12 chickens makes enough eggs for 3 to 4 households, the average household income or intake of eggs. So if 1 in 4 homes had 6 to 12 layers, we would have the ability to completely eliminate the egg industry in the US. Now, you say, well, Daniel, why would you want that? You sell eggs. Well, because it's the most efficient way to actually get your eggs every day is to have your own, or to have a couple of friends who do. And the spin off that, look at the amount of grain that is now not needed. Think about that in global trade, fossil fuel use of transportation, pillage of ground and crop growing. all of those ripple effects fracture out through our society and have incredible positive impact.
The vision these farmers share is bigger than their own farms. It's food security put back into the hands of everyday people. So if the idea was this powerful, why were the people who believed in it so hard to find? And why did it take so long for any of them to find each other? Let's go back to the late 1980s. Before APPPA conferences, before YouTube, before there were podcasts, before any of this, there was no place to go for help for your chickens. There was just your farm, your problems, and whoever happened to be nearby.
The learning curve used to be so steep, but we had a farm group, the Green Hills Farm Project, and I talked 4 other farmers into sharing 1,000 chickens with me. And so we each had 200. We got them for 63 cents a bird. We all took them home, moved them in little Salatin pens that we built together. The birds were so different from one farm to the next. Some were much bigger, some were much smaller, some were clean, some were not so clean. And then, of course, our processing setup was a fiasco. We cobbled everything together ourselves. There was nothing to buy at that time. I learned how hard it was to process chickens. I remember distinctly meeting a guy that came down to one of our Green Hills meetings from Nebraska. He and his son were raising 700 birds. I said, 700 birds, one batch? No, everybody can raise 700 birds.
Unless you were traveling the nation, there was no way to know that your biggest problem had already been solved by a farmer you never heard of on a farm you'd never find. Almost no one was doing that traveling. Almost.
APPPA started actually by that Joel Salatin guy.
When you're growing grass and the animals are for the most part self-harvesting the grass and taking the manure and urine from the grass and self-fertilizing, the energy flow completely changes.
As Joel and many others traveled, they ran into people who were solving problems and creating solutions to other people's problems, but those informations were not getting exchanged. Not everybody's going to write a book or have a podcast or have a following on a podcast, even if you have one, or a YouTube channel. And so how do you create a opportunity to bring all those ideas together? And so APPPA was that trade organization idea where we could get together and speak cooperatively about all things pastured poultry.
So Joel had a mission to bring all those ideas together. And while I was learning about the creation of APPPA, I also learned that Joel wasn't the only one out there gathering farmers. He was the voice, the writer, the spokesman, but turning a loose network of growers into something that could actually last took way more than just one person.
And there was Skip Poulsen from the Heifer Project. Skip was the de facto leader. He laid it all out and had the vision.
Skip Poulsen knew this work firsthand. He raised pastured poultry himself, and so did a lot of the other leaders. But Skip brought something the others didn't. He worked for Heifer International, the global nonprofit we're a part of today as Heifer USA. And that gave him the means to turn a shared idea into a real organization. So he did. Skip landed a federal grant, brought Joel, Diana, and a handful of other farmers to the table, and made it official. A nonprofit with a single purpose, to give these scattered farmers one place to share what they'd learned. This was exactly the kind of mission Heifer had always believed in. But before there was a board or a name or a plan, there was just a meeting.
That meeting was outdoors in kind of a bleacher area, away from everything else, and there might have been 20 people. I wasn't very far in my poultry career at that time, but I was there, and that was APPPA's first meeting. Those people, the Sechrets and Joel and Skip, were the only leadership that we had for a little while. So as far as purpose, we were islands far apart from each other, and so it gave us camaraderie, it gave us people to contact.
Just 20 farmers and bleachers became an organization, but that was the easy part. Deciding what it stood for, that's what made it a movement. Every farmer in this room spent years learning things the hard way. The fixes that finally worked, the methods that took seasons just to get right. That knowledge is valuable. And in most industries, knowledge is power you keep to yourself. These farmers decided to do something different.
The foundation of APPPA has been, bringing people together to share their successes and their challenges and then innovate on those together as a community. And so I think it's Christian Alexander likes to say, you know, we're an organization that trades secrets. We don't have trade secrets. And the people in this room come together because, you know, people like Christian want to help somebody that is not quite at his level, or maybe they are, but we all want to help. That's what really makes APPPA in particular different than so many other trade associations or groups. Is it really is a community effort, and we all come together under the idea that I can help you and you can help me, and we all have something we can learn from each other.
We don't have trade secrets, we trade secrets. That line was something I heard over and over while I was at that conference, and I watched it play out in every hallway conversation.
I think for me, the working together and the cooperation of farmers in a trade organization like this is a lot of times overlooked by farmers. And they think, oh, I'm fine. We're very much a group of rugged individualists. We can pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, tie ourselves together with baling wire, and we're fine. You know, we're good at that. And that's wonderful. But knowing what we can do together is so much more valuable than what we can do by ourselves. And so I think connecting with this group, being transparent yourself, being transparent with your peers. You know, it might be easy to be transparent with your customers, but can you be transparent with your peers, sharing your successes and your victories? Because your victories are maybe where someone else is failing and they need to hear that victory and say, hey, I can do that too.
So the relationships have grown over the years, right? They've become really tight. It's more like a family thing than it is a business thing. I answer calls at 4 o'clock in the morning. I answer calls at midnight, right? My chickens are dying. What do I do? That sort of thing. It's been a wonderful journey. I can't tell you how fulfilling this has been over the last 29 years.
We talk about transparency in our farms and in our marketing and how we brand ourselves as farmers and as marketers. But what I also want is I want transparency with the farmers to one another and sort of that shared mutual accountability, because I think that that's what builds trust in a movement, is when we have common ground, that we've decided that this is our tenet, this is our core value. I think that that shared value system, that is the biggest part of the goal and the vision for APPPA. If our farmers could just have the resources that they need to share and be open and transparent in what they're doing, because not only does it build trust, but it helps other farmers and it helps them shorten their or maybe flatten their learning curve a little bit.
When you come to this conference, there's very little trademark items. Everybody's happy to exchange information. Everybody wants you to know what's going on. And so that goes all the way down to the customer interface with, yes, come to our farms, check out our pastured poultry. Do you like the way the birds look? If yes, buy our poultry. Why do our birds look better than maybe something that you can't see and you can only see them on a label? Or they were posed for a picture in that beautiful green grass for an hour for the photo shoot and then never see the grass again, right? When you come to our farms, we want to exceed your expectations about the way the animals and the grass looks and the way that they're interacting with each other. Incredibly important, exceeding the expectations. Many times you build something up in your mind via PR, labels, pictures, or just your own imagination, and then you get there and it's kind of a letdown. When people come to our farm and they think, hey, this is gonna be the best pastured poultry I've ever seen in my life, we want that to be absolutely delivered on every single customer that comes. And if we don't offer that transparency for them to come and see, then how do we know that we're actually doing a good job?
And that transparency runs in every direction. No secrets from farmers, no secrets from the people they feed. Just a whole movement built on one idea. Today, that bleacher section is a conference 10 times the size it was a decade ago. Farmers from across the country and the world packed into one room. But what actually holds this movement together has nothing to do with the organization.
It's not the organization, it's the people. And it's not going to go anywhere. It's still going to be available. It's still going to be out there. It's still going to be accessible. I get to see people I only get to see one time a year, right? And we're not talking about chickens. We're talking about life. We're talking about experiences. APPPA's never going to go away. what really makes APPPA are the people, and the people are going to be here forever.
And the ones who built it are already thinking about who comes next.
You know, I want my young adults to have the opportunity to take it and make it their own, right? And elevate it to what they want it to be, because I don't want them to make it what I want it to be. It's going to be their farm. It's that I'm passionate about pastured poultry and committed to it and committed to helping that room of 400 farmers over there be successful.
APPPA is really a people movement. We're coming together in community. That implies that we're here today, but tomorrow we're over here. And then the next day we're over here, and we're just moving forward.
The industrial model is very linear, so it's incredibly scalable. Our model is incredibly cyclical, and it's incredibly replicatable.
A corporation grows by getting bigger. This movement grows by getting copied. One farm, one family, one flock at a time, spreading across the country on its own. And if you want to be a part of what these farmers are building, check out APPPA in the link in the description. If this is the kind of content that matters to you, please like and subscribe. And if you want to see this philosophy in action on a real farm, click this video next where we toured Pasture Life Farm, home of one of APPPA's own board members.